Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm going to try to give you a little demonstration in terms of how to work with templates and set things up correctly so you can make the templates work in the most efficient manner and get you the best out of your workflow when you're working with templates. One of the questions that's come up for quite a few of you have been, how do I get the templates to trigger um, from the either the appointment screen or at the time that I register the patient so that the template's already laid out for me once I'm in the room with the patient. So I'm going to walk you through that process. This is probably going to be a two-part deal. There'll be a couple of extra things that I'll maybe discuss briefly here and then go into greater detail in the second part of this demonstration. So first off, what I want to just point out to you guys is many of you have asked me where the templates are that were migrated. Some of you have not been able to locate them. So just to get everybody headed in the right direction, all of the templates that were migrated from my database will show up in your templates with the heading that starts either migrated or migrate. So if you do a search for the templates, um, starting with the migrate, you'll find the whole collection of templates that were ported over to your database. So I guess just as a very introductory level type of thing, where do you get your where are the templates? So you're going to go to your menu over here. If you're looking at the screen for your initial login when you're in your eClinicalWorks database, um, you're going to click over here with your eClinical menu bar icon that shows you all the different tabs, all the different parts of the system and how you access it. So of course your eClinical menu is over here, and templates is going to be under the file tabs of your menu, and it's right over here. So you're going to click on that, and you'll see here's the list of all of your templates. Okay, so again, if you're looking for the migrated templates, you're going to go into this search bar here, and if you start typing in migrate, it'll pull up all the templates that were migrated over from my system. Now the other way that you can access the templates screen is I'm just going to show you. If you pop into this note here, this is currently a blank screen, it's a blank progress note. But if you pop into this, you see down here also there's another spot where you can access the templates, and there's actually a few different options in terms of what you can do with the templates from this button. So you can copy and merge, you can save your note as a template. So if you recorded a progress note on the fly and then you like it and want to use that again in the future as a template for subsequent visits, you click on this tab, it'll convert that progress note into a template, and you can then work from that as the basis for subsequent templates. And then here's the button that we just saw before that will take you to the same list of your templates. So there's another way that you can access the templates. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to go back out here to our original screen, and I'm going to say we're going to start working with the templates from here. Now, a couple other things I want to point out real quick is that the templates that were migrated over, once you start working with those, if you want to customize and modify them, that's fine. Just keep in mind that any change you make to a template that's already logged in here, that's already saved, that change is going to be permanent in that template. So whatever the original version of that template was, that will be gone once you start making those changes. Whatever you save at that time, it's live. And once you make those changes, they're permanent. You won't be able to go back to the original version. So what I would suggest that you do is, rather than just start working from my original templates, is you start up here with add a new template. And we'll do that here just for the purposes of this demonstration. I'm going to add a new template, and I'm going to call it test template. We'll just call it 1. just for the sake of this exercise. And so there's my new template, okay? And this is a totally clean slate, okay? So, and then what am I going to do is I'm going to say, well, I don't want to totally build this from scratch, right? I want to copy whatever I had from my previous templates. I want to bring that in. So what you're going to do is you're going to go here to copy and merge on this button, and I'm going to use this template here. Let's say, for example, this is just an example template, again, just for the purposes of this exercise. So what do I want to do is I want to bring this template, which is the original, into the new one that I'm working with so that I can make changes, customize it, and leave the original one intact. So I'm going to select that template, and I'm going to come down here to copy template, because that's going to overwrite everything that already is sitting in this template if there were any fields that were filled in that I wanted to replace. So this way I know that I'm getting everything copied over and not just merged over. So I'm going to say yes, and that's going to bring everything into this template. Okay, so there's a little bit of a demonstration too in terms of the difference between copy and merge. So if there was anything sitting in those fields, a merge simply would have added to the existing fields in that template, whereas copy replaces everything. So this way I know that I've brought everything over, and whatever is sitting in this template now is an exact duplicate of the original. Okay, so here's my test template one. Another thing I just want to demonstrate real quickly here is the placeholder concept. You see here that I have a placeholder for last menstrual period under this tab here, menstrual history. Now there's a number of different ways I could record this information. I could go to HPI, I could click on that directly, and it will take me to this field. And this is sort of the subdivisions of your templates. So in terms of the concept of what you're used to with Athena, these templates would be, in Athena, would have been referred to as encounter plans, right? Where it's the whole entire visit, soup to nuts, your chief complaint, HPI, review of systems, assessment plan, treatments, diagnostic labs, images, the whole visit, right? So that's your encounter plan in Athena, which is what we call a template here. Now within the template you have subdivisions or subcategories. So each subdivision, so your HPI, your physical exam, your family history, those can also be broken down if you want to think of it as subtemplates. So you have templates within your templates. And so in this case, I have my routine annual subtemplate, if you like, for this portion of the HPI. And I can click through each one of these sections of that HPI individually and record whatever it is that I'm looking to record in there by clicking on that particular field. There's the placeholder that's recorded as my default, and then going through each of these tabs. Okay, that's the long way. It works, but not necessarily the most efficient. However, that is how you need to set up your template as you're building it. And we can get into that into a little bit more detail. Right now I just want to show you how to actually use the template rather than actually building a template from scratch. So that'll be for another topic, but I just wanted to show you how you can access this portion of the data via a placeholder. So what we've done so far is we've really actually gone into the actual subheading, which was HPI, right? So I accessed it that way. I could also click over here, menstrual history, and that will take me straight to that tab that we just saw. So we had, here's the super long way, right? You go there, you go here, and it takes you to this database, this sort of subdivision. Or I can take a shortcut over here to menstrual history. It takes me directly to that portion of the HPI, okay? Or the super fast way, and that's where the power of the placeholder comes in. If I just click on this placeholder here, And you can change the color of this if you want to. You can make it red, bold, green, whatever it is you want so that it stands out for you as a placeholder. That takes you to what we call a click-through screen. And it shows you up here, click-through. And so now it all shows up as a drop-down menu. So this is a much faster way of entering your data because it's all checkboxes. And the beauty of that is, especially if you're working on the iPad, you're just tapping into these fields. And of course, it provides you a direct shortcut into that portion. And remember, the placeholder is only sitting in one portion of this whole menstrual history tab, right? So I only need to have one part of that in my notes field designated in order for that to show up. If this was blank, that portion, the menstrual history, would still exist under the HPI, but you might not know it's there. You might forget it's there unless you actually click into the HPI tab. And so you may not ever fill out that information, or it just doesn't, register, because if this is blank, this won't show up in your note. That's the way the templates work. So that's the purpose of the placeholder. You just have to fill in one field in that subdivision in the notes section so that you can sort of highlight this portion of the HPI and say, hey, there's more data that you can enter over here. And just by clicking on that one tab, it'll take you directly into that field and give you all of the options that you have to fill out. So again, a little bit of a sidetrack there, but I wanted to point that out because it does stand out and it's a very powerful tool, and I'll spend more time in a separate video to show you how to use the placeholders effectively. But if you want to experiment with that in the meantime on your own and see the power of placeholders, it's a especially effective tool, again, for those of you who are working with the iPad, which I strongly recommend. All right, so here's your template, right? So we copied that in. So now we have this template that we've built, and how are we going to use it? So the next portion of this is associating this template with a visit. And that happens over here with the chief complaint. Now in this portion of the record, it gets referred to as the chief complaint. Your staff, however, doesn't usually use that term. They don't know what chief complaint actually means. When they're booking an appointment, they're going to be calling it, what's the reason that I'm booking this appointment? And so the different tabs that you're going to be using are going to have a different nomenclature. And the reason that it's done that way is because obviously we're trying to use terms that will be familiar to your staff and that will make sense to them, rather than making it medical chief complaint type of terminology that your front office staff may not fully comprehend what that really means. So how does that work? So we go back to our template list. We're going to go over here and we're going to look up the template that we just created, and I think, what did we call it? Test template 1. There it is, right? So we're going to highlight that template, and when we did that, just watch what happens down here. There's a button here. It's grayed out right now, can't do anything. So, but when I check this, now it's live, and this button is Associate CC, Chief Complaint. So what we're going to do is associate the chief complaint of this template with a reason code for the visit. So how does that work? I'll show you what that means. So we're going to click on this, and you're going to search for a keyword. Now in this case, we don't have one yet because we're starting from scratch. You could use any one of these. However, I would recommend that you use a unique keyword for each template, because that's what's going to help this work in the most effective and efficient manner. So in this case, we're going to create a new keyword, and I'm going to call this keyword, just for the sake of this demonstration again, I'm going to call it 05 annual test. Okay. Now, why did I name it this way with the O5? This is part of the numerical nomenclature system that I've designed for the templates and for building this whole system. And how that works is that if you code your templates with a numerical system in front of them, it will help you compartmentalize and categorize the groupings of templates into major categories. That will make it easier for you to reference your templates, because you could end up very quickly, very easily with a list of 30 or 40, templates, and that becomes a very unmanageable list as it grows in terms of remembering, now what did I call that template again, and where did I put it, and so forth. I personally actually don't recommend that you use that many templates. I think if you try to create a template for each specific situation, you're actually defeating the purpose of using templates. The idea of a template is to give you something that is generic enough that it covers most situations, but flexible enough that you can also customize it on the fly to suit the changes and the modifications that need to be made without having to, create free text fields for every portion of that template. So it takes some time, takes some effort to really tune your templates to suit your needs. That's just a sort of philosophical approach that I take to utilizing templates. Some people like to have a specific template for each situation. I just personally feel that when you do that, again, you end up with such a huge list of templates, it starts to become inefficient, and you're really sort of defeating the purpose of having a template in the first place. So anyway, so what that means is in this numerical system is I can now categorize groups of templates that I think belong together, that have major similarities, or that help you identify where to find the correct template. So for example, in my nomenclature system, O1 are all the well woman visits, O2 are all the problem visits, O3 or all the procedures, and O4 are all the OB visits. I don't have an O5, so this is why I used it here. Now, of course, in the O1s, I have 10 different O1 templates, but at least what that does, and I'll show you how it works later on, is that by doing that nomenclature system, it's very easy to train your staff in terms of how to remember which template goes with which patient and what to look for when they're setting up the appointments. And that'll become clear in a moment here when I take it to the next step. So for now, we're going to associate this chief complaint 05 annual test with this template. Okay, so we created that over here. Now there's one more thing that I want you to do before you close this out, is highlight the name of that, and I'll show you why that's important in a second, and make sure you copy it. Okay, so we just did that. We highlighted the name of this chief complaint, quote unquote, that we associated with this template, and we copied it, and now we're going to click OK, and now that is going to become, now we're going to look this up because we just created that keyword. There it is. All right, we just selected it, pushed it over to this side. Now this 05 annual test code is going to become associated with the chief complaint for this template. And once we put that in there, I close this out, and let's see here if that updated over here. Okay, so now that's updated. So now the next step of this is we are going to create an appointment for a patient, and we want this to be the template that we use when that patient comes in. So how does that all work? So let's go back to our appointment screen, and we are going to, let's see, I'm going to pull up Angela Test actually. I'm going to pull it up from over here. Okay, and I'm going to take us to the encounters. We're going to view this appointment here that we've scheduled. So just so that I don't make a duplicate appointment. So let's say here you go, you've booked an appointment for Angela Test. We've created the visit type that we want to make it for this type of visit. Now the visit type isn't the same thing as the reason or the template. So I just want to make that clear for everyone. The visit type, all that does is designate the structure of how that note, how that document is going to look. So for example, a progress note has certain elements that are going to be present in it. The HPI, the chief complaint, the subjective exam, like objective exam review of systems, family history, all that stuff. If it was an OB visit, that visit type triggers a flow sheet, which is your OB flow sheet. If it was a procedure visit type, it's going to trigger a different type of note or document that has different elements associated with it. So that's what visit type means. That basically all that's doing is saying use these elements in this document. And you can designate which elements are included in that visit type from your admin screen. So again, that's a separate process, but all it's doing is basically providing you with the structure and the framework for what that final note is going to look like. It's not the same thing as a template. The template, the magic happens over here where it says reason, okay? So remember before I referred to the fact that we use the term chief complaint, obviously, when we're talking about why is the patient here. To your staff, that chief complaint is reason. What's the reason for the visit? Why are they coming in? Okay, so what you're going to do here, you see the ellipsis. Right now, if I just jump into that field, it's going to scroll down. It's going to show me all of the reasons that I've created. Now again, you'll see this familiar nomenclature system that we were just talking about, right? Here are all the O1s, here are all the O2s, the O3s, the O4s, etc. So these all match chief complaints that were associated with the templates that I created, and I used the same name. So you have a consistent nomenclature system throughout the entire system. And again, it's for the purposes of keeping everything consistent, makes it easier to train your staff that way when you use this type of a nomenclature system. Now in this case, we don't have an O5, right? Because that's something that we just created. So we're going to go over here to the ellipsis. It's going to say search for keyword. I'm going to put in O5. It's not going to pull anything up, right? So because that's brand new. So we've got to create a new keyword for it to link up to the chief complaint. So the chief complaint is linked to the template. The reason is linked to the chief complaint. So they all connect together, and that is how you trigger your template. Hope that makes sense for everyone. So now we've got to create the new keyword that is going to match the chief complaint that we associated with the template. And this is why it's important to do that copy and paste that I mentioned to you before. We're going to click new. Now sometimes you might say, okay, what did I put with that chief complaint? You might start typing it in and forget that you used a hyphen or that there was a space or there was an uppercase or a lowercase. If this doesn't match exactly what you used in associating the chief complaint with the template, it's not going to trigger correctly. Or it might, but it may be inconsistent. You're going to get inconsistent results. So to be absolutely sure that you're using the same terminology, the same nomenclature throughout the system, and that you're going to trigger that template every single time, because it actually, what it's looking for is words that match. But it doesn't have to be, it's a contains, it's not an exact in terms of the search function of what it's looking for. So in other words, if it can, it'll match up, it might match up if it finds that the chief complaint contains the same part as your nomenclature here, but it doesn't, it may include templates that you don't want to include. So if you use the exact name, the exact same name here as the reason, as you used in your chief complaint. It's going to be a one-to-one match. You won't have any mix-ups. You can basically ensure that you're always going to be using the correct template with the correct reason. So at this point, we're just going to do a paste, and this is going to be an exact copy of the same nomenclature that we used for the chief complaint that we associated with the template. You click OK. Now I'm going to go back in and search for this keyword. There it is. I'm going to associate it with this visit. Okay, we're going to click OK. And so basically what your staff is doing is when they book that appointment, they say, what's the reason for your visit? I'm coming in for my annual. So they're going to pick, okay, that's an 01, okay, and then they'll be able to tell, you know, from their list of 01s, which is the appropriate one. Or I'm coming in for, I have a problem, or I'm bleeding, you know, okay, that's a 02, you know, that's a problem visit, 02. So they don't have to drill through 20 different templates to find out which is the appropriate one to associate with that visit. They know that that's a problem visit, so that's going to be my 02, and now instead of having a list of 20 templates to search through to find the correct one, they only have a set of, let's say, 5. So it's just, again, that's how that process works. That's why that nomenclature system, I think, is very useful. So we've now created the reason for the visit that's associated with this appointment, and you can see it's showing up here now in your splash screen, right? Your dashboard that you use when you log into your system. So now what's going to happen is, you might have noticed before when we looked at this progress note, it was blank. Now what's going to happen is when I click on this visit, there's the trigger. I'm getting a message, are you sure you want to merge the template associated with 05 annual test, right? And it's telling you right there, right at that point, that's when it's triggering your template. We're going to go to that progress note, we click yes, and there it is, okay? It's now fired that template. Now you're going to notice over here under chief complaint, it's actually incorporated what you gave as the reason for your visit into the chief complaint. And then here's the name that we gave the template, and that's just what happens when you name a template. It automatically includes that as part of the chief complaint. So in other words, I could have made this test template 1, but I wanted to demonstrate how it all links together, and I didn't want to make it too confusing. And hopefully I haven't done that here. But what I want you to appreciate is the fact that this all came from the reason that got dumped into the chief complaint, that connected the chief complaint to the template, that triggered the template into your progress note. So that's what's going on sort of in the, you know, software magic behind the scenes. Now, some of you look at this and say, well, that really looks silly. I have a chief complaint that's got all this stuff in here. That doesn't mean anything to anyone, and it doesn't look right. And you are correct. It probably don't want to include that as part of your final note. So there is a way to actually exclude the chief complaint from the final note once you lock it. Even though it looks a little odd in here in the progress note, it's actually a visual cue. I use this to, you know, sort of remind myself, and I think in terms of the way this is kind of designed, is what it's doing is when you see this at the top of your note that you're working with, this is a visual cue to let you know that, hey, you're working from a template. And you know, this is not an organic note. You're working from a template, and this is how you're entering your results. So it kind of serves as a visual cue. It also lets you know, am I working with the correct template, right? So if these don't match, and again, in this case, they're different, and that's just because of the way that I did it for this example. But if I had used the nomenclature system that I normally use, you would see test template 1, test template 1. You would have this entered in here twice. And the reason that I like to see that there is because that's letting me know that whoever selected the reason for the visit at the top when they made the appointment actually selected the correct template, so that they're matching. If they don't match, then something's off. So again, it's another visual cue. You can experiment with those and play around, um, to see what works with your workflow the best way. That's just the way that I do it. And again, the main purpose here that I wanted to demonstrate is how do you link up the reason for an appointment? How do you get that from your screen at the time that you check in to link up to the template to trigger the template? Now, of course, the other way that you can do that is over here on the side. You have all of your templates listed. Okay, so let's say that we selected the wrong template, and we wanted to pick a different template, or patient told you she was coming in for a well woman exam, but it actually turns out she came in for an infertility workup. Okay, so now this is no longer the appropriate template. So how do we fix that? So the way that we fix that is I have a template over here that's called blank. And that's basically just, it's a template that has nothing in it. And so what we would do in that case is I'm going to go over here. We're going to go to our copy and merge. I'm going to select the blank template, and I'm going to copy the blank template into this note. And there, it just blanked everything out. Okay, everything just disappeared except for, I guess, the social history. And that carries over from one visit to the next. So so that's how you do that. And now let's say, okay, so I want to actually, so they booked the wrong appointment, they used the wrong thing, so I'm going to now pick this template because it's a GYN problem visit. It wasn't an annual visit. Let's say it's for a new patient. So I'm going to click that over. I'm going to push that into this field there by clicking that orange button. And now I've selected my template on the fly. Okay, so that's a way to deal with these kinds of things. So you can here now see that she was booked originally for an annual, and that was the template that was triggered, but in the meantime we fired a different template. And so again, that's just showing you just another way that you can work with templates and work with them on the fly. So I hope that's helpful for everyone. I hope I didn't get too much into the weeds, didn't confuse you with too much information, but I think it just kind of demonstrates all of the different ways that you can work with templates. Part 2 of this, I will focus a little bit more in terms of what the different components of an actual template are, how you build them out, how you use them, and give you a little bit more guidance on that. But I would suggest that for your purposes in the meantime, use the migrated templates. Start with a blank one and copy my migrated templates into a blank template, and then start playing around, customize those. And that way, if you mess up, you still have the original templates to go back to. All right, hopefully this helps, and I will see you all and talk to you soon.